how the S/4HANA migration cockpit can help you to transfer your business data from ECC or non-SAP systems to SAP Cloud ERP Private or Cloud ERP Public. So from selection through transformation and simulation to migration, how the cockpit actually help you to transition to SAP Cloud ERP. So with that, I'd like to invite Kirsten to introduce herself and take it away, please.
Hello and a warm welcome from my side as well. I'm Kirsten Siebenmorgen and I'm working in the product management for the SAP S/4HANA Migration Cockpit, and I will give you an overview on this tool today. Let's first start with a look at the SAP Business Transformation Center and all the several sessions which are available, which helps you to transition to SAP S/4HANA, to the Cloud ERP. So there is a guidance available with the transformation approach finder, which helps you to find the right transition path. We support you with the digital blueprint and the data preparation. And if it comes to the transformation execution, there are three different tools available: the Software Update Manager, the Lean Selective Data Transition, and the SAP S/4HANA Migration Cockpit. And that's the topic I will give you information on today. So the session is about the SAP S/4HANA Migration Cockpit. And we have a look at the business transformation. It ends all with the data transition validation. So before I dive deeper into the SAP S/4HANA Migration Cockpit, I want to give you a short recap about the different transition paths and the guidance within the SAP Business Transformation Center. So you can choose your transition path, and we help you with that with the defined transformation approach. This is based on your source system and your business requirement. It proposes you with the best fit transition scenario. And if we look at the transition scenarios on the right-hand side, at the bottom, you see the system conversion. So that's an upgrade-like transition where you use the Software Update Manager, and it's a so-called brownfield approach. And we take the whole data out of your ECC system and we transform the entire system to S4, including all repository and all data. And then we have the selective data transition. There, the data will be moved selectively from the source system, from the source ERP system to the S/4HANA target system, including historical data. But the difference to the system conversion is that you can leave unnecessary or unused company codes behind. You also have the possibility to use a time slice. So you can still use your processes and custom implementation from your source system, but with, let's say, a set of relevant data, not with all data. And at the top, we have the new implementation. With the new implementation, you really start freshly new with your SAP S/4HANA system with new processes. And when you want to migrate your initial data set, the migration cockpit supports you to migrate the data from your ECC system or non-SAP system, so your master data and open transactional data. You leave your historical data and your business data behind because you really start new with new processes in the SAP S/4HANA. So we call this the greenfield approach. And that's where I want to deep dive now with the migration cockpit. So I want to give you an overview on the functions and the process itself, and I will then go to a demo and show it directly in the system. And in the end, I will also guide you to further resources where you find additional information. So as already mentioned, the migration cockpit helps you in the new implementation scenario. So it helps you to move your data from an SAP or non-SAP source system to the new system. And the migration cockpit is included in SAP S/4HANA and the SAP S/4HANA cloud licenses and shipment. So you can use it out of the box. It comes with a guidance and simulation possibility for the migration process. And you get predefined migration objects delivered with the migration cockpit. So there is a set of migration objects which you can use. So they represent the business objects which you want to migrate. And with this migration objects, you also get the automated mapping between the source and the target system, because if we're coming from an ECC source system and going to S4, there have been some changes in the target structures, and these mapping is already implemented in the migration objects. With the migration cockpit, we use the standard APIs to create the data in the target system. So you will have all the validation and everything in place when you migrate your data. So there will be no inconsistencies created in the target system. If you have some specific requirements for your migration objects, there is a possibility that you use the migration object modeler to adjust the migration objects to your customer need. If you want additional fields, or if you want to, I will come to that also in a minute, where that might make sense. And it's integrated into the SAP Activate methodology. So just to summarize it, it supports you with your data migration from SAP or non-SAP source system to SAP S/4HANA. Let's have a look at the process itself. So first of all, you need to select the migration objects which are relevant for your project. So you decide which data you want to take with you, which master data and open transactional data are necessary and you want to migrate. And then we have two possibilities how the data is fetched. So either if we have an ECC source system, there is a possibility that we directly extract the data out of the ECC system and pass it to the migration cockpit. The second possibility is that you use XML or CSV template files, which we provide with the migration cockpit, and you can fill them with data and upload them to the migration cockpit. As already mentioned, between the source and the target, there might be some transformation needed. There are rules already implemented, and you also have the possibility to do some value mapping if that's needed. So you can, for example, change your cost center namings if you want to do that on your way to S4. Before the data is really created and migrated in the target system, you have the possibility to simulate that. And in this case, the APIs will be called in a test mode and processed in a test mode. So you already get all the validation and checks upfront. So it checks if the predecessor objects are available, if all the data which is needed is available, and if everything works fine and the simulation is okay, you can then process the migration. That means the API creates the data in the target system. With the migration cockpit, we support all deployment options. That means you can migrate data to SAP S/4HANA Cloud Public Edition, so SAP Cloud ERP. You can also migrate data to SAP S/4HANA Cloud Private Edition and to SAP S/4HANA. I already mentioned that we have a pre-configured SAP S/4HANA migration content. So what's that means? Well, we have migration objects, and they represent a business entity in SAP S/4HANA, such as the customer, the supplier, or sales orders. And it encapsulates the logic which is needed to create these business entities through the corresponding API. It's delivered by SAP based on the SAP best practices configurations, and you can use them immediately. You have master data and open transactional data. And as mentioned, it already contains the rules, how the values from the source target are handled. And you also have the possibility to do some value mapping, which we call the mapping. And if you have some specific requirements, so if you can extend the migration objects with the migration object modeler. There is a list available on the help portal where you can find all the migration objects available. So we have two different help portal sites. One is for the on-premise and private environment, and the other link is for the migration objects which are available for the public cloud. You can look at them through the help portal, so you do not need any system connection, and you get a migration object documentation. You can filter on the different migration approaches, and you can also download the list of migration objects. As already mentioned, we have two different options to get the data, and these two different migration approaches depend on the source system. So if we have an SAP source system, we have the possibility to migrate the data directly from an SAP system. We call that the direct transfer. And that means we connect the source system, the ABAP-based SAP source system, via an RFC connection. And we select the data based on a predefined selection criterion. And for the scenario that you're coming from an ERP source system, that's the company code. So based on the company code, the data is selected. You can choose more than one company code. That's possible. And if you want to fine-tune the selection, you can do so also in the SAP S/4HANA Migration Object Modeler. We support different migration scenarios here. If we are going to SAP S/4HANA or SAP S/4HANA Cloud Private Edition, the source system can be an ERP source system, an AFS system, an APRO system, or an EWM system. If we go to a public cloud system, we support that you select data directly from an ERP source system. So that's basically the possibility if we have an SAP source system to transfer the data. And for any other source systems, you can use the migrate data using staging tables. And with this approach, staging tables are created automatically in the SAP S/4HANA database. This can be locally or in a remote system. And you can then populate these staging tables with your business data using the pre-delivered XML template files or CSV template files. If you have a remote system, you can also use any SAP or third-party ETL tools to fill these staging tables directly. So before I go to the demo, I just want to summarize again what the migration cockpit is designed for. So it's designed for the initial load of data, so the data that is required to start your business operations. And it includes master data, open transactional data, and FE historical balances. And it can be used in the context of new implementation of SAP S/4HANA. And as already mentioned, we support SAP S/4HANA, SAP S/4HANA Cloud Private Edition, and SAP S/4HANA Cloud Public Edition. You can also use it in a phased approach if you migrate different company codes or different countries in a phased approach. So you can also migrate data in an already existing SAP S/4HANA system. So it's not necessary that that you need a fresh SAP S/4HANA system. It's not designed to keep data in sync across systems or to realize a continuous exchange or flow of data or to establish an integration scenario. Within the migration cockpit, there is no data cleansing functionality. So that means the data cleansing needs to be done outside of the migration cockpit upfront. And currently, it's not supported that we can directly migrate data from an SAP S/4HANA source system to SAP S/4HANA. So, and now I also added some videos for later reference. And now let's jump into the demo. Let's see my demo. So I'm now here in a private cloud environment in the SAP S/4HANA system. And you see that's my starting page. I have a page with the data migration. I have the favorite, migrate your data. That's the app I will show you in a minute. But there's also these data migration section, which you can choose. You need a dedicated role and authorization to use it. You will find that on the help portal. Okay, that's basically what shouldn't happen. So let's see. Okay. And you see what I have already done. I've already created some migration projects, which I will show you later on. But let's start really from scratch, and we want to create a migration project. So as you can see, you choose the create button and you can now decide whether you want to migrate data directly from an SAP system or you want to migrate the data using staging tables. And let's go for the migrate data directly from an SAP system. You give it a name, and you choose a scenario, and that's what I have shown you before. We have different scenarios available, which source system we support. And in our case, I have an ECC source system. So I choose the SAP ERP to SAP S/4HANA scenario. It now checks what's necessary for this scenario. And what you also need, you need an RC connection to the source system. My source system is called UA8 client 915. So that's the connection to this ECC source system. And as a second step, I now decide which company codes I want to select in my source system. And as you can see, it already proposes my company codes which are available in the source system. And I will take the company code 1000 and will choose that. Then currently, how the direct transfer works is that it selects the data out of the ECC system directly into the migration cockpit. If you want to first use an intermediate staging in a remote system, where you want to extract the data and maybe also do some cleansing functionality, there is the possibility that you can use an intermediate storage, use the staging tables as an intermediate storage. But in my demo, I will not do that, but that's an option really if you want to manipulate the data and do some cleansing and checks in between the selection and the processing in the migration cockpit. So I will skip that. And now you select the migration objects which you want to use. You can see it's a huge amount of migration objects which are provided. You can directly go to the dedicated application. So you can choose this link and it will guide you to the help portal where you find your migration object description, the purpose of the object, what is in scope, what is out scope, what roles and authorizations are needed. So besides the role for the migration cockpit, you always need the role of the dedicated migration object so that you can create this object in the S/4HANA system. So let's switch back. And what you also see, you see the predecessor objects. So for example, for the activity type, you see that you first need the activity type group and the secondary cost elements. So you also get information which migration objects are predecessor objects, which need to be available in the S/4HANA system or part of your project. So in my case, I take the activity type and the cost center and the profit center. So I select them into my project. I can review, and in this case, it gives me the information which predecessor objects exist. I can also have a look at them. But in my case, I decide that I do not want to migrate them because they have already been migrated or created manually. So I will not use that functionality. And now the project will be created. And during this creation, you will, all the APIs will be copied to the project, all the rules which are necessary. So everything will be copied to the project. I've already created a project yesterday because sometimes these preparation steps, they take a little bit so that we can go on already with the demo. I already prepared a project which is ready to be used. And I will give you now an overview on this page because that's the, let's say, the central page for the migration cockpit. So on the one hand side, you see the migration objects. You can also navigate to the migration objects, and you can see there is also, again, the direct link to the documentation. You will see which tables will be selected in your source system. You also find in history what has already been done with this migration object. And if there would be a migration object, dependent migration object in the project, you would also see that here. So let's switch back. The second part, which you can see, is the data section. That's where you will find your data once you have selected the data. Then we have the mapping task functionality where you can do some renaming and confirm your mapping. You have the simulation section and the migration section. And here in the action part, you are always guided what is the next step you should do. So in this case, it suggests that first of all, you need to select the data. So that's what I will do. I select the data and you get again the information from which source system and client will the data be selected and for which company codes. And then I can start the selection, and it guides me to the monitoring where I can then see what is currently running and gives me an indication what is running. If necessary, you can also cancel this operation, but I will not do that. And as that may also take some time, I already prepared a second migration project where I've already selected all the data. Maybe what we can do in between, we can just jump in the source system. So basically that's my ERP source system, and I can check the table. So is the table for the activity types. I'm in company code 0, and if I check the numbers, you can see there are 84 activity types in my source system. We can also have a look at them. So you see them here. And if we now go to the migration cockpit, you see these 84 instances have been selected. We can also deep dive into the different instances. So you see them here as well. And now the data is selected and is already in this instance list. And if we have a look at the action, it says now, please prepare the mapping task. So that's what I will do. You can always choose if you want to do it for all instances or only for dedicated instances, but I will do that now for the whole bunch of instances. And what's part of this step is that it really looks now which fields need a value mapping, or for which fields you can do a value mapping. You can have a look at this value mapping, and you can also decide whether you want to rename or you just take the values from the source system as they are. What you can see here, there is already one mapping task done. That's because I've already done all the mapping tasks for the cost centers. And if migration objects use the same mapping, for example, in this case, that's for the controlling area, and I already have confirmed that, I only need to do that once in my whole project. So all the mappings are used by all the migration objects. And you see I have now 3 open tasks, and what I can do, I can jump into them, have a look at them. I can rename them if I want to do so. So I could give them another name. But in my case, I will just confirm all of them. You can do that on the major screen. So you can just say, I want to confirm all the mappings because I just want to take the same values. I do not want to rename it. And you can then go back and see that the mapping has been done. And as a next step, it suggests the simulated data. So that's what I will do. I will also do the simulation for all the instances. And now, as mentioned, the API will be called in a test mode run, and it really checks if there are some issues or not. And you can see, in this case, I have 6 errors, and for the 6 errors and 78 successful migrated. So let's check why we have some errors here. You can see these are the migration instances with errors. What I can do, I can also go to the action section and directly show me for the whole activity type all the simulation messages and all the errors. And in this case, what you can see that it says that the activity type already exists on the database. So that reflects 6 instances. I can also dive a little bit deeper, and there you can see all the instances which already exists on the in my SAP S/4HANA system, because maybe someone has already created them manually. And that means, okay, either I say, okay, then I only migrate the successfully simulated, or what I can also do, I can also choose these 6 instances, and I can exclude them from the migration. So I have now excluded them from the migration. You see they are now excluded. And I have 78 activity types simulated it successfully. And what I will now do, I will now migrate them. And you can see also here we have different possibilities. You can also select all successfully simulated or a custom selection, but in my case, I will just select all of them and migrate them. And we can now also jump in the monitoring functionality, where you see the process, so that 16 out of this 78 has been processed already. And now you see it's finished. So you see all the migration, all the activity type have been migrated successfully. So I can also have a look at this migration results. Sorry, that was. So you see all the migrated instances. There is also a specific filter on the migration results. And with this, you see on the one hand side, on the left hand side, you see the activities, and on the right hand side, you see which activity type has been created. In this case, it's a 1-to-1 because I haven't renamed it, but it could also be that here you have another naming. You can also download this information. And what you can also do, you can directly jump to the dedicated application. So in this case, the activity type application, and it will show you how that works. So unfortunately, with the sharing, now it's working. So you see it jumps in the manage activity types transaction, and you can see that this activity type has been created. So basically, that was everything I wanted to show on the migration approach direct transfer. And I will now switch to a public cloud system so that you can see how that looks in a public cloud environment. So now I'm in a public cloud system. So you see it looks pretty similar. I have also already created some migration projects. And if we now go to migrate data using staging tables, if I create it, you will see that you first of all also have to give it a name. And you can choose between a local database schema and a remote database schema. You normally use the remote database schema, and then you can upload your data with XML template files. If you want to fill the data directly with your ETL tools in the staging tables, you can use the remote database schema. But in my case, I use the local one. And you can see also here we have a huge list of available migration objects, and I can choose them. In the public cloud, you will only see the migration objects which are relevant for your scope. So depending on the scope you have activated in the public cloud, you will find the migration objects. So that might differ from the migration objects you see in the help portal, because it really depends which scope you have activated. So you might not need all of the migration objects. And then, well, the process is the same. You choose your migration objects. You can also review, and it checks if there are some dependencies. And then you can see there is one dependency. I can also say, oh, that's a profit center. Oh yeah, I missed that. So I can add that to the list. And then I can create the project. So it's pretty similar. And I also have already created a staging project already. And what you can see here, it really looks pretty similar. There is one thing I missed to mention with the direct transfer approach. You can see the migration objects, they are also grouped, and that means for group 1 means they don't have any dependency objects. And if you look at group 2, the cost center, you can see it has a predecessor object, the profit center. So that means within the cost center, you also have profit centers in your data, and so therefore the profit centers need to be migrated upfront. In the data section, it's a little bit different than from the direct transfer. You see we have these staging tables, and if we have a look for the cost centers, for example, there are 2 staging tables which have been created. And basically that's the staging table for the master information, and the staging table for the translations of all the different languages and different languages. Yeah. And what you can see, the first thing it guides you to is to download the template. So that's what I will do. I will download the template, and that can be an XML template file or a CSV template file. So let's choose the XML file. And this will then download the file. I've already prepared a file. I will open it up so that you can see how it looks like. Oops, sorry, that's not. Sorry.
The challenge of doing live demos, right?
Yeah. Sorry. I'm going to the Excel. So now it's working. So I will show you the Excel. Can you see the Excel now? Yeah.
No, I still see your S4. Now I can. Now it's open, I think. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So you see the Excel template.
If you can go full screen for the Excel as well.
Yes. So you can see that's the Excel template, and you see there is an introduction sheet. That means all the you get some guidance how you should fill these templates. So what are mandatory sheets? What are optional sheets? How to work with different data types like text or numbers. And there is also the information on additional information in row 8. So I will show you that in a minute. And then besides the introduction, there is a field list where you see all the fields which are available in the dedicated sheet. And you also see if it's a mandatory field or if it's not a mandatory field. And you also see all the mandatory fields and sheets, they are marked in orange. So you see the master sheet is mandatory. You need to enter your cost center and your validity date. And you also see which fields are mandatory. So they are marked in orange. And so that's basically the master sheet for the master staging table, and then we have the translation sheet where you can enter cost center description in different languages. So that's basically how an empty field looks like, and now you can fill it with your data, which is necessary. And I will show you how that then works. So you then have the possibility to upload data. So you will see how that works. You can just drag and drop. So I have already filled a file with, oh, sorry, no, that's the wrong one. I already filled a file. And I didn't put in any errors, so that hopefully it works through. So it uploads now the file with the data. It validates if all the values are in, all the mandatory fields are filled, and you can see these 10 instances, they have now been uploaded to the migration cockpit, and you can also check them out. So you see all the cost centers which had been in the template file, they are now uploaded to the migration cockpit. And I also prepared a file with an error or with some errors in so that you can see how that works. So I upload a second file. And in this file, I have put in some wrong data. So you will see it will end up with an error message. So it will validate, and you see the validation failed. I can have a look at the messages, but what I can also do, I can download the file including the messages, and that's what I will do. So I will download the file with the messages, and I will open it up. You see it's opening up. And now in this file, you will find an additional sheet once it's opening up. So hopefully it's still working, it's still loading. Yeah, now you see you have an additional sheet, the messages sheet, and here you have your error messages. So for example, there is a mandatory field missing, and you even have the link to the direct link to where this issue occurred. So you see here, oh yeah, I missed out to add a value. Or also here, you see, oh, there is another one. Especially if you have a huge file with a lot of data in, that really helps to find where the issue is. And there is also a fourth expected reference row. So if we look at that, you see, oh, there is one entry. And if I look in the master, oh, the master is missing. So basically, that's really helpful to guide you through the errors which could occur during the upload of the template files. And so what would be now the next step? It would be that I prepare my migration object, and that will also open up the mapping tasks, and then I can simulate and migrate. So pretty same process as I already demonstrated during the direct transfer. So the process itself then is pretty similar. The only difference is really how to get the data. So with this, I will switch back to the presentation. And I will give you some more information, some further information and resources. So what we have a dedicated landing page for the SAP S/4HANA Migration Cockpit. So you see there are two different pages. One is for SAP S/4HANA and for the private cloud edition, and one is for the public cloud edition. And if we have a look at these landing page, you will see you will have some information on getting started. So an overview presentation, some videos, some interactive demos. There is a learning section with SAP learning courses or a cookbook or some additional training materials. In this training material, for example, you will find some detailed information on how to use the migration object modeler. Then we have the link to the application help. We have information on the migration objects, so also the link to the available migration objects, some sample data for the staging tables approach, and also some release comparison, because it could be that if there are some release upgrades that additional fields have been added, and you can then check the release comparison, what has changed with regards to the migration objects. It also there is also information how the migration cockpit supports custom fields, and with regards to the project organization, it hints you to the best practices and the sub-activate roadmap. So basically it's really the starting point for all the documentations you need. I also added some quick links to dedicated sources, either for the public cloud or for the private cloud. And with that, I will just give a summarization, what you have seen today and what you have learned. So with the SAP S/4HANA Migration Cockpit, it's the recommended tool for the initial data load in new implementation scenarios. And you get a comprehensive set of predefined migration objects. The migration cockpit is integrated into the SAP Activate methodology, and you get the automated mapping between the source and the target system. They are embedded in the migration objects. You also have a guidance and a simulation for the migration process, and depending on your source system, there are two different migration approaches which you can choose. And as you see, some facts and figures, we have more than 4,500 customers around the world using our migration cockpit. We are, let's say, the SME, we are the recommended tool for the initial data load, and it's included in SAP S/4HANA, SAP S/4HANA Cloud Private and Public Edition, and you can use it out of the box. And I also mentioned here again the 2 landing pages. So with that, I hope you have seen how the migration cockpit can support you when you're doing a new implementation. Thanks a lot for your interest.
Thank you so much, Kirsten, for sharing all of this with us. Until we see in the next session, this is Mukesh Gupta signing off. Maybe before we do that, Gina, if there is anything that you want to reiterate, or if not, then we are good to close the session today.
No, I'm fine. Thank you. Thank you for the
Thank you so much.
presentation, Kirsten.
Thank you so much, Kirsten. Thank you so much, Gina, for helping us set these sessions up. So until next session, this is Mukesh Gupta signing off. Take care. Bye-bye.
Okay, thank you. Bye.